If you're starting Medicare soon, you've likely heard about your initial enrollment period, otherwise known as your IEP. But navigating your IEP can be difficult because of all the different options provided to you by Medicare. And when even is your IEP anyway? Well, today we're going to answer these questions and more. And by the end of this video, you'll know what steps you need to take during your IEP and how to do IEP right. So let's start with the first and most important question. When is your IEP? IEP is the period that everybody using Medicare has. Whenever you're about to turn 65, your initial enrollment period will begin 3 months before you turn 65 and will last for 3 months after you turn 65. So in the enrollment period, you've got 3 months before your 65th birthday, the month of your 65th birthday, and 3 months after your 65th birthday to take care of your Medicare enrollment. That's 7 whole months that you have to enroll with no trouble and no penalties. And even though you have a lot of time to take care of your Medicare coverage during your IEP, it actually is in your best interest to get it taken care of before you turn 65 for a few different reasons. First, you're able to get coverage that starts on the first day of the month that you turn 65, so you get your coverage earlier. Second, you have the opportunity to take a more in-depth, detailed look at some of the options that you have for your Medicare coverage because you simply have more time to look into it. And third, it just feels better to get it taken care of ahead of time than it ever would trying to get it finished and squeezed in at the last minute. So that's when your initial enrollment period for Medicare is. And during the 7-month period, you will sign up for Medicare Part A and Part B. And it's really important to make sure that you get this taken care of during your initial enrollment period, because if you don't, you could see some pretty major penalties on your monthly premiums for Part A and Part B. Now, for most of you watching this video, your Part A premium will likely be free if you worked 10 years or 40 quarters in the United States, or are married to somebody who has done the same. But with Part B, everybody pays that premium. And if you don't enroll for Part B during your IEP, you can see major penalties that will stay with you for the rest of your life. So it's super important to make sure that you take care of enrolling for Part A and Part B during your initial enrollment period to avoid unnecessary penalties because of procrastination. And if you need help enrolling for Part A and Part B, then you can call our office via the number in the top left corner of the screen, and we would be happy to help you with your enrollment, because our mission is to help seniors with their Medicare and get them the best coverage that they can get. And so we don't want to see you suffer with penalties for the rest of your life. So if you need help enrolling for Part A and Part B, feel free to call our office and we would be happy to help you get enrolled. And then once you've taken care of enrolling for Part A and Part B, then you can start looking into some of the options for private Medicare insurance, such as prescription drug plans, Medicare Advantage, and Medicare Supplement, also known as Medigap. Let's start first by covering what prescription drug coverage plans look like, and then we'll move into Medicare Advantage. Prescription drug coverage actually comes from private companies and is identified as Part D, as in dog, of Medicare. So these plans don't actually come from the government like Part A and Part B, as in boy, of Medicare does, but they actually come from private companies, but they are specialized plans that are created for those on Medicare to help with prescription drug coverage. So during your IEP, you can choose to enroll in a prescription drug plan. Now, technically, they say that this is optional, but if you plan to enroll for a prescription drug coverage plan at any point in your life while you're on Medicare, then I would highly recommend that you do it now. Because if you currently don't need a prescription drug plan, but in the future will want to have that coverage, then you should enroll now, because if you enroll later, you could actually see penalties on your Part D premium for enrolling later instead of during your initial enrollment period. So even though they technically say that it's optional, it really is mandatory. If you don't want to see penalties on your Part D premium in the future, and if you want to have prescription drug coverage at all while you're on Medicare. So with that being said, we always assume that Part D prescription drug coverage is mandatory since it has penalties like Part A and Part B do if you enroll later after your initial enrollment period. Something else important to note about enrolling for prescription drug coverage during your IEP is that you actually can't change your plan during your initial enrollment period. You just find the drug plan that you want and then you get it, but then you cannot change that again until another enrollment period comes around, which likely will be the annual enrollment period, which runs from October 15th to December 7th. And this is another advantage of taking care of your Medicare coverage early. You get a better opportunity to look into the detailed parts of a plan before you enroll for it. So then there's fewer surprises that could come up, resulting in you being unhappy about your plan and being stuck with something for the next several months. Instead, starting early allows you to make the best decisions for your situation and for your health coverage. So that's what getting a prescription drug plan during your IEP looks like. But another way that you can get drug coverage is actually through a Medicare Advantage plan. If you're interested in enrolling for an Advantage plan for your Medicare coverage, you should know that most Advantage plans actually have drug coverage built into them. So in that case, you would actually not enroll for a separate prescription drug plan if you did get a Medicare Advantage plan that already had drug coverage on it. But if you're going to enroll in an Advantage plan during your IEP, understand that it operates the exact same way as a prescription drug plan. You cannot change your Advantage plan during your initial enrollment period. Instead, you sign up for one Advantage plan, and then the next time you can change that is a different enrollment period in the future. So again, just another reason to start early so that you can look into the detailed parts of Advantage plans and make the right decision for you, not getting stuck with a plan that you hate for several months. Okay, so this is what you can do during your initial enrollment period. And if you've been listening, you might be thinking to yourself, hey, wait a second. What about Medigap or Medicare Supplement plans? Can I enroll in one of those during my initial enrollment period? And the answer is kinda. Medigap plans actually have a separate initial enrollment period that is different from your general initial enrollment period. So we look at them differently, which is why I've split this video up into two different parts. First part is just your general initial enrollment period. And now this second part is going to be covering Medigap initial enrollment period. So the Medigap initial enrollment period actually has a different starting time. It begins when you turn 65 and are enrolled in Medicare Part B, which again is just another reason to get enrolled for Medicare Part A and B before you turn 65. Typically, when you apply for a Medigap plan, you have to answer health questions or do underwriting before you get approved for it. But during your Medigap initial enrollment period, you actually don't have to answer any health questions, which ensures that you will get accepted for the plan and that you get the lowest rate possible. And if you sign up for a Medigap plan during this initial enrollment period, then you actually have 30 days where you can switch to a different Medigap plan with no health questions. So if you find that you don't like that Medigap plan, then you can switch to a different one without having to answer those health questions, as long as it's happening in your Medigap initial enrollment period. So just like everything else that we've talked about, it really is best to get a head start on your Medicare coverage. Now, if you don't have that opportunity anymore, maybe you're really late into your IEP or your IEP is already passed, that's okay. We can still help you get the right Medicare coverage for you. But if you can get a head start on it, you can save yourself from a lot of headache. Now, you may have found that this information has given you a headache just on its own, which makes total sense. Medicare is incredibly difficult to work out on your own, and we would be happy to help walk you through it here in our local office in Springfield, Missouri, or over the phone if you live out of the state or out of the area or can't make the trip. Because we can help anybody in the United States, and we would be happy to walk you through this process of applying for and finding the right Medicare coverage for you. We specialize in helping people get the right coverage for their specific needs. So if you want to learn more about these plans, need help enrolling for one of these plans, or just want to talk it through one-on-one with a Medicare advisor, then you can call our office again via the number in the top left corner of the screen, and we would be more than happy to help you navigate this complicated system known as Medicare.